Hello, I'm James Lott Jr. Welcome to In Between the Pages. I know it sounds dirty, but it's not. With James Lott Jr., we're talking to writers and authors and songwriters and people who actually write like I do and find out what's going on behind the scenes. And this person's a bona fide superstar that I get to have on here. I love having them on here. His latest book is called Malibu Burning. I love the way the cover feels. It's a really good like seriously, page turning book that has an ending that's very surprising. But then I went, wait a minute, okay, it's good, folks. It's number one in heist crime, number one in police procedurals, and number one in heist thrillers. I don't know if you knew that, Lee. It's number one.
It's also number one in erotic novels and poetry. Don't ask me why. Well, that was a shock.
The way you write your words are very poetic. There you go.
But when I saw you rubbing my book against your face, I began to understand the erotic part of the book.
I feel like that's the way it feels. It's like I love books. You can do Kindle.
Clearly.
You can do Kindle.
Clearly.
But I like a book.
Even though you had that disclaimer about between the pages, I'm beginning to think you're a liar. The way you're holding and fondling that book, it's a little creepy.
It's a good book.
I had no idea when I wrote it how it would be used.
Yes, exactly. Once you release it into the world, Lee, that's what happens, right?
Apparently.
He has one of the most unique bios out there. So I want you guys to go to Amazon and read his bio. I'm not gonna read it. It's hilarious and it's good. I love it. I'm like, it's very funny. Read it. But yeah, he's done many things. We'll talk about that also. But he's a writer, but he also, my mother was like, I know him from the Janet Evanovich dual books they do together. There's a whole series they've done together. You know who she is, of course, folks. But I want to welcome my new friend here, Lee Goldberg. Hi, Lee.
When you mentioned your mother loved, my whole body tensed up. I thought you were going to say something like, my grandmother was such a fan of Diagnosis Murder. And I would feel 1,000 years old, like older than Methuselah. During this interview, I'll start dripping and my real face will reveal itself. But I've had that happen before. I had a woman come up to me at BoucherCon, old woman with a walker.
Yes.
She said, my mother wouldn't let me watch your show, Diagnosis Murder. Like, oh my God, how old are you? How old am I? But sorry.
But Lee,
we digress.
Lee, I'm a grandfather of 5. I may look like this. I'm way older than, my real face is in a picture upstairs. So don't worry. I just have good genes. But no, it's my mother. So yes, I'm a little older than I look. So yes. But
I'm a lot older than I look, apparently.
Yeah. Well, Lee, seriously, you've written books based on series like Monk and stuff. Then you also have worked on series, and then you've written series that just are series and stuff. So so you've seen different parts of this business, and right now we're going through the writer's strike. We're going through the act strike. What are some of your just overall thoughts right now about this business? Was this a long time coming? Was this something that you saw? What's going on?
Well, I could answer both questions. I'm in 2 businesses. I'm in television and film, and I'm in publishing and yes. Writing books. Yes. And both those industries have changed dramatically, fundamentally, cataclysmically. And what we're seeing on the TV side is a fundamental rethinking of how the writing business works. And that's why this strike is so much different from the other strikes that we've been through. This is about whether or not writing can continue as a profession, whether series television can continue as we know it. And it's bizarre to me. I could spend a whole hour talking about the issues at stake in this strike and why the studios and networks are being absolutely insane and suicidal in their approach to this. By the same token, the publishing industry has changed dramatically. And the biggest change has been the rise of the ebook and the rise of self-publishing. While we've been talking, 1,000 new books have been published by self-published author. And most of them are just unbelievable excrement. But they have changed the publishing industry and the way books are consumed and how hard it is for books to be discovered. It is now possible for anybody to be on the same shelf with James Patterson, literally with a click of a mouse. But just because you can doesn't mean you should. And there's just so many steaming piles of horse poop all over Amazon. But moving the piles of horse poop aside so your horse poop can be seen, is really a challenge in of itself. And even the actual marketplace for books has changed. The way bookstores operate, how few bookstores there are, the way Costco and Walmart have become very narrow book delivery services of enormous power. We're seeing the future of writing, and then there's whole AI thing coming into play.
I'm very curious what you think about that. Yeah, what do you think about that? I mean, it's yeah. What do you think about that?
Well, AI is by nature plagiarism. AI is trained by consuming pre-existing work and regurgitating it in new forms. And one of the things the studios want to be able to do is to generate a script with AI and then have a writer come in and rewrite it. Therefore, working on something that's not their own, that they don't own and don't get paid for, and is not coming from them, it changes the nature of writing. It's no longer coming from your soul and from your experience, coming from a computer, and you're shaping what the computer has generated. That's not a future that I want to live in. So it's a scary, scary time. And people are writing book proposals now based on AI. Just for fun, I took my new book idea and plugged it into AI, and I was shocked by how quickly it wrote a proposal for me. It was filled with cliche phrases and stuff, but I could massage it into something of my own, which wouldn't actually be my own, because it's pulling stuff from Wikipedia, articles, other people's books. It's a scary time.
I agree, and I noticed that some of the stuff that I've seen with through Chat GPT or CBD or whatever it's called, because I'm not a fan either. I've seen how soulless it is. It's just writing something. It's just words. And I'm trying to explain to somebody, it's just words. It's like you have to kind of massage it and make it into something that's worth something. But you brought up a good point that it's picking things from other stuff, and just who knows who it's picking it from. Yeah.
Well, I mean, my daughter's a school teacher, and they have plagiarism engines that they use to make sure kids aren't, stealing their essays and reports from other places. And if you run a term paper or something that's been written by Chat GPT through the plagiarism engine, it pops all over the place. So Chat GPT is not generating original words. It's just cobbling together plagiarized stuff. There was a great spy novel. I'm looking away because I think I have it on my shelf here somewhere. Not readily available, but there was a spy novel written about 10 years ago by a guy who owned a bookstore in New York. And it got all these glowing reviews, but it was entirely made up of scenes he took from other people's spy novels. He cobbled together a new story, but used descriptions and dialogue from other people's novels. And it was a big, big scandal, and he got humiliated. On the other hand, if he had just come out and said, I've written an original spy novel made up entirely of other spy novels, that tells an original story, people might have said, my God, I mean, the work he did was actually more work than writing an original novel.
Yeah.
I don't know how he did it. Yeah. Oh, God, now I need a scene in Amsterdam. I got to find a scene somebody wrote in Amsterdam and steal it. Oh, now I have a scene between a guy and his boss about nuclear war. Is there a book out there that did that already?
Yeah. It was more work. God, what a trip. And that would be an interesting gimmick. At the same time.
I've got the book somewhere on my shelf here. It was released and then pulled from release like after about 3 days.
Yeah,
and the book had gotten extraordinary reviews. He had a name like Quentin Markham, something like that.
Okay.
But look it up. The guy ended up he was engaged to be married, and the movie rights had been sold, all this stuff, and his whole life just went crashing down around him after this came out.
That's great. Why that's like that guy who was the Oprah bestseller book club list. Turned out this whole thing was a lie or whatever. His story was a lie, and she brought him back on the show to yell at him or whatever. I was like, I remember that years ago too. I was like, yeah, because that was the thing. I mean, when it came to writing, it was like you sit down, how your process is, and you come up with an original story. Yes, there may be things in your brain that are influenced by certain things, but you came with a story, and then you release the book, and then you have a book, and that's what you do. I mean, I feel like nowadays it's changing, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
It's so interesting.
Some people just don't want to do the work. I don't want to do the work.
But for you, so because you work in several mediums, do you still continue working in several mediums because it's just now it's what you do, or is it lucrative for you to work in several mediums, do several things?
It's lucrative for me to work in several mediums. It's saving my butt right now because the Writers Guild has been on strike for 4 months, but I'm not worried about losing my house or my mistress or my private jet because I have the books. to keep me afloat. These Atkin bars are expensive. Now I can buy them.
Oh my God, I love it. I'm glad the mistress is okay. Yeah, so
She's the most expensive part of the equation.
Exactly.
Important note: don't get a 22-year-old mistress. Russian one who wants to be an actress and has a coke habit. It's expensive.
I actually know a few of those in real life, but anyway, because I do work in Hollywood. No, but that's a true thing. I mean, I think the multi-hyphenate now is kind of being celebrated because we can't do certain things right now, and so now it's like, what else can you do?
I've always been a hyphenated writer and a caffeinated writer, but I think it's important not to put all your eggs in the TV basket or all your eggs in the book basket. This way, I have a balanced career. I'm a writer first. I write things. I write fiction. I write nonfiction. I write novels. I write screenplays. I write whatever I want to write, or wherever the money is.
Yeah.
It's what I do. It's who I am. And I have so many people coming up to me on the picket line going, "Say, how do I get into this book thing?" Well, it's not like easy, it takes years, decades.
Wait a minute.
Or you can be a self-published writer and just take a dump on your computer keyboard and hit publish. Not all. I don't want to tarnish all self-published writers. There are some very good ones. There are, I mean, exceptionally good ones. There's some who are dominating the bestseller list right now. There's one, I think, Rita McFadden, and I mean, there are others who are really genuinely excellent and are making millions of dollars. But that's 1% of the self-published stuff that's out there. And there's some self-published stuff that I've been exposed to where Chat GPT would be an improvement.
Well, was it oh my God, was not Harry Potter, one of those series, the Twilight, didn't they come up, weren't they actually self-published at first, or?
Well, Twilight started as not Twilight. 50 Shades of Grey started as Twilight fanfic.
There you go. That's what it was. That's what
Malibu Burning started as emergency fanfic. Remember that old TV show with
I remember
Randolph Mantooth?
And Mantooth.
What a name!
Right.
What a name, Mantooth.
That's a great name.
Mantooth.
And he was a man. He was like a man too on there. Yeah, I remember.
There are a couple actor names I've never seen in the wild. Have you ever run into anyone else named Mantooth or anyone else named Shatner?
I know, right? You don't hear those names anymore.
Those are original names.
Those are original names. Oh my God, I love it.
Shatner sounds like something a self-published author has done after they finished their book. Shatner.
Exactly.
Not all. I keep tarnishing it. I don't mean to. Like I said, I do know some extraordinarily talented and very, very successful and justifiably successful self-published authors. It's just a minority of the ones that are out there.
Well, I mean, he begs the question, and I've asked this for other writers too, and I can ask you the same question. Because back in the day, it was there were a lot of folks who had ideas that got rejected because the actual book publisher was like, we only do so much. Well, now you can do it yourself. Same with music, same with a lot of stuff. It was the same with TV shows. Now it's like streaming apps, and you just put on a TV show. Is that better or worse? I mean,
there's a freedom. It's democratized book publishing, and from that standpoint, it's wonderful. Anybody and everybody can get their book published in paperback and ebook, and they can have it on Amazon in an hour. They can have it on Barnes and Noble in an hour, or Kobo in an hour. So there is no barrier to publication, but in some cases there should be. I mean, it's just you only have one opportunity to make a good impression, and if you take a big poop on Amazon, it's hard to convince people to read your writing after that. It is a learned skill. There are a lot of people whose books are rejected for a good reason, or who just aren't ready yet to be published. Sure. And making that determination on your own, I mean, I understand the frustration. I mean, if you've written your book and it's a passion project and you've been trying forever to get it published and you are convinced it's wonderful and it's your dream to see it in print, then self-publish it. What harm can you do? I mean, you may never get another book published, but maybe you'll be one of those lucky few that really succeeds, like Twilight.
I have friends in business who, like you, are multi-hyphenates, and they were just like, they have real books. They have books that are published by, whatever, and they have some that are self-published, And then they have some projects they work on. Because I have a couple friends who work for Marvel, and they do a couple of things with them. Just like, so they do a little bit of everything. So it's like, we just do everything. Just like, if you want to, like, basically for them, brain dump, you have a bunch of material, you just want to get out there. They're saying, I guess it's fine.
I've self-published. I mean, I've self-published my out-of-print backlist, and I've self-published some novellas over the years. So it's not like I'm against. I mean, self-publishing can be right. Like, when my books have fallen out of print, rather than them going in the garage, I can republish them and many times make more money with my self-published editions of the out-of-print books than I ever did when they were in print. So, and Lawrence Block has been self-publishing his novels for years now. He makes more money doing that than if he went to a publisher. And at his age, in his 80s, he doesn't want to wait around 2 years to see a book published. He wants it published tomorrow. I totally get that. So I'm not ruling out all self-published work. I mean, there's a lot of wonderful things self-publishing has done. It's given rise to a whole bunch of really good indie publishers who wouldn't be able to exist if not for print on demand and self-publishing. So it's changed the business, but also has made the business more demanding. Now readers want stuff that grabs them instantly.
Yes.
Ebooks, in some ways, you could argue, have cheapened writing because people want this visceral thrill. They want to download a book and have it grab them, immediately, as opposed to going into a bookstore, picking up a hardcover, looking at the pages, and browsing your way into finding a book.
Yeah. Well, I want to get into. Because I really did enjoy this book, and I did read it. And everybody reads books. I read books. I read the books when I talk to
Glad.
I do. No, I do. So I take my time. I read them. I like to read, first of all. I go on trains and stuff like that. I just read while on train stuff. So Danny Cole, who's the main antagonist, I guess you call it in this book, was very interesting to me because I thought it gave an interesting backstory. And then it was interesting during the story, and then I'm not giving away the ending or kind of what happens, but I thought that was interesting too. What you showed to me in the character of Danny was that people are complex. There are people who you're almost rooting for him in some places against the two people coming after him. And then he has his own relationships in the book too. And then like you're kind of like, but he's the bad guy, right? I mean, so I just want to talk about this creation of Danny, especially because you have the two people coming after him, then you have him. Oh, actually, let me back up. Explain the story, the main story of the book. I'm sorry, I want you to explain to people the main story of the book.
The main story of the book is there is a massive wildfire in Southern California, and there are two arson investigators who are looking into it who begin to believe that there's more going on here than just the fire. But there's a parallel story that starts 8 years previously and eventually converges with the main story, which is the other side of the fire, which is, yes, it is more than just a fire. It is a means for committing a massive heist. And it's a heist novel, and it's all about, the way the heist is put together, the crew, and how it unfolds. So it's two novels in one. It's a big heist novel, like Donald E. Westlake used to write, but it's also a police procedural, like, Michael Connelly might write. Yes. And then they converge into something entirely different. I learned a very important lesson early in my career from Stephen J. Cannell, who created the A-Team and the Rockford Files and all that.
The whole typing of thing.
He said, so there's no such thing as a bad guy. Every bad guy thinks of him or herself as the hero of their story. They don't see themselves as bad people. They aren't defined by the criminal act that they're doing. They don't necessarily see it as criminal. It's just what I do. They have lives, they have loves, they have goals, they have disappointments, they have people they care about, they have sense of humor. They have things that are going on besides waiting for the detective hero to come after them. And there's likable things about bad guys. I mean, I don't know if you've seen the new series Tulsa King.
Yes.
With Sylvester Stallone.
Yes.
He's a horrible person. He's also really nice and polite and friendly and a sociopathic bastard, but also warm and kind. It's what made The Sopranos so interesting. These bad guys, except in James Bond movies and cartoons, are not all, I want to take over the world. They're not sitting in their secret lair in a hollow volcano. They've got mortgages, they've got loved ones, they've got car payments, they got heartbreak. They have to go to the bathroom. They use deodorant. They're all like us. So the more you can humanize the bad guy, the better. And I wanted you to be rooting for him, even though what he is doing is reprehensible. He's putting thousands of people at risk, not just at risk of losing their lives, but their means of making a living, their homes, their memories. I mean, and yet you're rooting for him? Well, look at Tony Soprano. We're rooting for that guy, and he was a murderous, adulterous, god-awful, sociopathic, violent bastard. It's like, oh God, he might get hurt or arrested. Well, let's hope so.
Right.
But at the same time, he's taking his kid to look at colleges. He's doing all this stuff, dealing with gardeners and poolmen and whatever. So that's what I try to do in all of my books, is to have well-rounded characters, whether they are the quote-unquote good guys or quote-unquote the bad guys. And I want you questioning that. Who is a good guy? Who is a bad guy? Because some of the good guys aren't that good. And sometimes the bad guys are better than the good guys.
Right. And back in the day, I mean, he was somebody who was fighting fires. I mean, he was actually part of the solution back in the day, and now.
Well, Danny did it to avoid. Danny is arrested for a crime and goes into prison and opts to become a convict firefighter, because in general, the life of a convict firefighter is so much better than the life of a normal convict. You're in a low security fire camp in the mountains. You're breathing fresh air. You're eating good food. You're not behind prison walls. You're out in the public. On the other hand, you're basically risking your life for nothing, and you can get killed, but you get killed just being in the prison yard. So he makes a strategic decision that being a convict firefighter is probably a better, safer use of his time in prison than actually being in the penitentiary.
Yeah. And I actually know somebody who did that, actually. So I related to that also. There's no one I did it. But I just thought it just made him so interesting. And so I have to ask you, is this book the first in a series?
It wasn't meant to be. I wrote the book, and the pre-orders for the book were so strong that before the book was published, my publisher ordered me, under the penalty of death, to write a sequel. So the sequel has been written. It'll be out in September of 2024.
I can't wait.
And the pre-orders for that are already so strong that my publisher told me over the weekend at a conference we were at that they want me to start working on a third one. So yes, there are sequels. The second one's called Ashes Never Lie. It comes out in September. It's a crossover with my Eve Ronin series of police procedurals.
Oh, okay.
And then the third book, I can't tell you anything about without ruining book number one. But the third book will make people happy.
Well, you have to come back on the show, because I want to read that book too. You have to come back on. Now I'm hooked because of how things were left. I was like, wait a minute, is this? That's all I'm going to say, folks. When you read it, you'll know when you read it, you'll know what I'm saying. You're like, oh, okay. So I can only imagine what the third book's going to be. I can only imagine, because I can only imagine. So, but I was just like, it was an ending I just didn't expect. I thought it was a one. I thought it'd be a one and done thing, but I guess I was like, oh no, I guess I don't know. So I thought it was very cool, and actually, it's kind of cool. And then, well, let's get into. And then we have the two arson investigators too. They have their own first time kind of coming together, working together, figuring this out. And I love how and at the end too, they became kind of friends, basically, kind of this whole process, right? They went through a lot.
Only in a couple days. That's the thing. You have one story that's taking years, Danny's story.
Yes.
And then the story of our arson investigators is basically unfolding over 48 or 72 hours, over just a couple days. And one character, Walter Sharp, is a seasoned homicide investigator, and his new partner, Andrew Walker, is a U.S. Marshal who's quit being a marshal to become an arson investigator because his wife wants to fight her save her life, which turns out not to happen. But by having a newbie as a partner, I'm able to give the reader an education in arson investigator, because my new arson investigator is also getting those lessons. So, because the world of arson investigation was new to me, and it's going to be new to most readers. So, discussing the principles of arson investigation, how they do their job, I had to integrate it into an entertaining way into the story, so it doesn't come across as bald exposition.
Yeah. Well, also it's fun. It's fun to have old versus new. I mean, that's just it's a way of describing. It's fun. It's like you have the older, longer who's been doing it longer, world weary person versus somebody who comes in and is like, "Hi, what do we do?"
Forgive me for taking a drink here. I have a vocal cord
Yes.
issue, ladies and gentlemen. I'm losing my voice. So hold on just a moment.
Please go ahead. Of course, though. Of course. I know. I know it's so bad. It's like he has his voice thing going on. I want to tell him. I want to ask all these questions for him. It's all this like I really enjoyed it. The book is fast paced. The book, you say, this take over. It's interesting. And where'd you come with because the way you do it is it's good because, like you said, it's basically two stories going on that converge. It's like you have one coming from the side, ready to merge into the lane. It's like it's over here. Is that it's not going to be easy to write, but is that easy to write, or is that you have to find the right moment? Is that hard?
I hated myself for doing that. I had to create a spreadsheet so I could keep track of all that crap. I was like cursing myself the whole time. No, it's not easy. And I said, I'll never do a dual timeline story again. So, of course, my next book was a dual timeline story. I have a novel coming out in November called Calico, which is a modern day police procedural and a period Western set in 1883 that share the same dead body. What? And so it's plotting that one. So they all converged, with the body that dies in the 1800s and being dug up in present day. And I mean,
okay. Look, we read that. I got to read that too. I'm excited. Okay, read that. Yeah, it seems like it would be a little hard to do that.
It's hard.
It's hard to do it.
I don't recommend it. Don't do it. Don't do dual timeline stories.
God. So how did you get involved with Janet Evanovich? That is something, this is like a question for like my mom. Like, how did you get involved with Homegirl? And I just started, and you have a series of books with her. They're out. They're successful.
Yeah, Janet and I did 5 books about a con man and a thief. In fact, I one of the reasons I did Malibu Burning was I missed writing that kind of character and having that kind of landscape to write in, that wide open world of a big heist. Janet and I have known each other for decades. We honestly don't remember how we met. So it wasn't like Janet plucked me out of the ether to write with her. We were friends. And she was in LA. I can't remember what she was in LA for, but we had one of our long dinners where we just catch up with each other. And we were talking. She's actually had some trouble with previous co-authors. So she was asking me how I collaborate, because in my business in television, I have to work with other authors all the time. Plus, I did that Dead Man series where I hired other authors, and I was writing Monk, so I had to work with the creator of Monk. So she was very curious about the whole collaboration process. But then we also started just talking about the kinds of books and movies we love that aren't being done anymore. The Thomas Crown Affair, Moonlighting, Remington Steele, the original Avengers with Patrick McNee and Diana Rigg, The Saint with Simon Temple, or even the old Western Maverick. We're talking about heists and style and suave, debonair heroes and all that. And we had one of those comfortable silences that old friends can have over dinner. And then she looked up and said, "How come we've never written together?" I said, "You've never asked." And she said, "Why don't we write this? This thing we're talking about that we aren't seeing anymore. Why don't we write what it is we're missing?" And we just started talking about it at dinner. I went home and I wrote up an email sort of summarizing what we talked about. And I said, "Hey, if you sober up in the morning and realize you've made a horrible mistake, it's okay. I won't mind." She said, no, I like this. And she called her publisher, and within 24 hours, we had a 4-book deal. And I think 6 months later, we were #1 on the New York Times bestseller list. It happened very, very fast. And the 5 books were a joy to do. It's not like we had some divorce or some acrimonious falling out. They're just other books I wanted to write, other things I wanted to do. And if I kept writing the Fox and O'Hare books, I would never have time for any other books. So if it wasn't for me leaving Fox and O'Hare, there wouldn't have been I can't do it right. I'm reversed on the camera. But there wouldn't have been any Lost Hills. You can see the poster behind my head. Yes. Or there wouldn't have been Malibu Burning. There wouldn't have been so many other books that I've written since then.
And you said and one of the upcoming sequel is you're merging Eve Ronin now in there.
Yeah.
So how was that? How was that doing that?
Well, in a sense, I already have, because the fire in Malibu Burning is the same fire that's at the end of Lost Hills. And there's even oblique references made to Eve Ronin, not by name, in the book, to the events that are happening in Lost Hills. Because I came up with the idea of doing a heist in the middle of a big wildfire. I went, oh, crap. I can't do it. I've already written about a wildfire. I'd just be repeating myself.
Yes.
What if it's the same wildfire? what if it's the same fire, but from a different perspective? That'll make you see the wildfire in Lost Hills in a whole new light. So I did that. And I think it bought me the opportunity to do the same story twice.
Like that.
Not the same story, but the same fire twice.
Yeah. It's a good backdrop.
And then Ashes Never Lie is a arson investigation story that involves a homicide, and Eve Ronan happens to be investigating that homicide. So she ends up working together with my two arson investigators on that particular case.
I like that. I'm gonna let you rest your voice. I love talking to you. You are hilarious. You have to come back when the next book, whatever books have to come back on the show. I want to hear more, and I want to read more. Now I'm a new fan. I want to read your stuff. I mean, I've heard of you, but I never really read your stuff. Now I'm like hooked, completely hooked.
Oh, so it's a gateway drug. It served its purpose.
It did. I mean, but also I'm easily. Also, I'm very easy, so that just that helps too.
So in other words, I didn't need any talent or expertise. I could just put anything on the page, and you would have gone for it. I can't tell you how flattered I am by that compliment. You're easy.
Easy, but no, I'm easy for good work.
Okay, good.
There we go. Good. Mallory Burney, you can get it on Kindle. You get it on. Just go get it. Go get it. It's legal.
It's even chiseled in stone tablets.
Yes, do that too. Well, it's a little heavy, but yes, stone tablets are good. A little heavy, but it's that's good. But run out. Do not walk. Run. Well, actually, just go on your phone. Go on your tablet. Go when you're in the store. Just get it. Pick it up and get it. It's worth a read. It's really good. It's seriously a page turner. And because of this book, I want some KFC. You got the reference.
That was just reflecting what I wanted to eat while I was writing the book.
Your
books are so full of people eating. It's just, I'm usually so damn hungry while I'm writing.
That's going to ask you why. Like, it was a conscious choice of picking a place for that person to say that on the Bring Dinner
eating this keto crap, and I'm dreaming of biscuits and fried chicken. So I'm living through my characters who are eating In-N-Out burgers and all this pizzas and all this stuff I can't eat unless I want to be morbidly obese the rest of my life.
Same here.
You can't see me, but from the waist down, I'm huge. I'm gigantic.
Same here. That's why I have the camera like way up here, so you can't see anything past this.
Oh, I'm just monstrous. I'm like Nero Wolf. I'm just giant. I just sit here at home and tend my orchids up on the roof.
That's why he's a writer. We stick him in a room. That's right. You're in a room by yourself. That's what keep you there. You have to stay there, Lee. To stay in the room.
Believe me. I got chains around my feet tying me to this damn desk.
Well, good for us because it means more books. Thank you, Lee, for being on the show. I mean, you're the best. You're the best. I mean, it's
my pleasure.
I haven't laughed this in a long time. Folks, Lee Goldberg, the book's called Mallory Burney. Check out his other books also, but go on Amazon. You can follow his page, the page for the authors, which I'm doing. Follow his page. You get all his goodies and stuff. And are you on social media?
I'm all over social media. I'm Lee Goldberg everywhere. I'm Lee Goldberg on YouTube. I'm Lee Goldberg on Twitter. I'm LeeGoldberg.com. Though I do occasionally get, when I say occasionally, every damn day, I get emails intended for Lee Goldberg, the weatherman on WABC in New York. People are constantly bitching about my weather reports and my forecasting. I've got nothing to do with that. But by the same token, people complain to him about my book, so it evens out.
That's hilarious. You're like, I'm not a meteorologist. I don't know why the clouds did that, but thank you. Yes, so thank you. Oh my God, it's hilarious. I'm James Lott Jr., folks. I'm James Lott Jr. for myself. And we will talk to you next time on In Between Pages with James Lott Jr.